Hi guys, I'm Tommy. Welcome back to the channel and another wicked video. So, I have got a confession to make. I've just spent the last hour and a half trying to do a video on bleeding brakes, to only find that I spent the whole of that time filming in portrait and not landscape. So yes, today I'm going to be showing you how to bleed your brakes, and I've done part of it already, but I haven't actually started to bleed. So that's the main thing, right? So I'm going to show you what I've done, or what I did, and now I can finally film correctly what I'm going to be doing. In the last hour and a half, I've got up to putting the shifter on the handlebar and also putting the hydraulic hose into the shifter itself. And I also filmed, how to organise, or what order to put the three pieces, the barb, the olive, and the black bolt on the hose. So I'm going to expose the reservoir port, which means that I will then, and I'm sorry, my workspace is completely messed up because honestly, it's so annoying. What do I need? That's another thing. My shifter. I rounded the reservoir bolt, so now I've super glued the Allen key that I need to open that bolt. Right, right, my equipment, as it's laid out really neatly, I'm going to be using hydraulic mineral oil, okay? A syringe, reservoir thingy, cup, brake block, Allen key thing, don't know why that's there, a torque wrench, and yes, some hand gel, just in case I just want to clean my hands. I should be wearing gloves, but for the sake of this. And that is obviously what I used to glue the Allen key into the shifter. Anyway, should we actually get on to bleeding brakes? So, this brings back memories of doing this literally 2 minutes ago. This is my caliper. I've got a bolt here which holds the pads in, which I'll be unscrewing to take the pads out. I've got a bolt lock thing there which locks the, or opens up the port here, which is where the fluid will go into, and it will follow through the hydraulic hose up the frame, out here and into the shifter, and then hopefully we'll see the fluid coming up through the into the reservoir bucket cup thing. Don't know what that's called, but yeah. So I am going to set my stuff up a bit neater. I'm going to put my phone on there and film the reservoir getting screwed into that shifter. Okay, so I'm going to be completely honest. I've just gone into the shed to grab a Allen key so I can get the Allen key piece that fits that reservoir bolt. And to be honest, doing that has made me completely forget exactly where I was in the video. So I think I talked about the caliper. I showed you my stuff. I've tidied it. I'll show you that. Look, boom. Look at that. It's proper neat. Yeah, right. I'm gonna drag this along here. Fantastic. Perfect. Right, what we're gonna do is we are gonna grab a. No, that's not what we need. We need a Allen key, and we are gonna grab. Does that fit? Okay, perfect. That fits. I'm gonna undo it. All right. I'm not sure you can see what I'm doing. So when this comes off, you'll have a rubber washer, which you don't want to lose. Can you see that? This is the bolt. You want to keep this somewhere safe, somewhere where it's not going to get dirty as well. So I'm just going to put that down there. And now what you're going to do, now you can grab your reservoir bucket thing, and you are going to screw it into the top of the shifter, being really careful not to cross thread the shifter. I need to shift the bike over there. I think that'll do. I'm now gonna zoom in like so. I can grab the actual Allen key to undo my brake pads. Okay, now I can take that bolt out like so. I'm gonna take my pads out as well. What? No, that's the spring. There you go. Press your pistons out. Now you can grab your brake block. No, wrong way. Push it through like so. If you really want to make sure it's nice and secure, you can grab your bolt again, push that through, and then grab your Allen key, screw that in like so. What I'm going to do now is, I've done this the wrong way. Sorry. What you're going to need to do is, bear with, scooch the camera up there. Perfect! First try! I'm using the gimbal, alright? So I've just literally used the joystick and it's perfectly on the reservoir. And I'm going to grab my mineral oil, okay? I'm going to unscrew the lid, carefully pour this in, alright? Not a lot, just a tiny bit. Okay, pop the lid back on. Once you've got your brake block in your caliper, you're going to locate the bolt on the caliper that unlocks the fluid port. Put a Allen key in the top and hopefully it'll stay there. So you're going to leave that there. I've got about this much hydraulic fluid in my syringe. Now, as you can see, I have got an air bubble in the top of the syringe, and all this is filled with hydraulic fluid. Grab the end of the syringe and you're just going to pull it back, alright, until that fluid comes out of the tube. Okay. Now, when it gets to the bottom, be really careful because you don't want it to just suddenly go and then like loads of bubbles form in the system. Then you're going to start to push back up, alright, and it'll push all the air out of the tube of the syringe. Try and get that bubble as centre as possible to the nozzle of the syringe. And then, as you can see, you have no bubbles in the fluid that's going through the tube of the syringe, alright? So this is how you just get the perfect bleed. Now, what you want to do is with the top of the tube, is it going to focus? You're just going to push it right, whoops, that was a bit far. You're going to push it to the end. Get your Allen key port thing. You're going to undo it a tiny bit. This is quite difficult to film, alright? Undo it a tiny bit. And as you see some of the hydraulic fluid coming out, you're then just going to push that tube onto the port. You can take the Allen key out for this bit because it's a bit fiddly. Okay, so finally we have got the tube into the port. Fully unlock this the port of the caliper. Now, the reason I unlocked it slightly before I put the tube on, okay, is because if you put the hose on before you unlock the port slightly and let some of the hydraulic fluid come out the caliper, you will have an air bubble all the way down here. Now, when you start pushing the fluid through, you'll then have a bubble that's going all the way from this end of the caliper all the way up to the shifter, and that bubble might get lodged in like halfway up the frame. And that will mean that once you've ridden it for a few weeks, alright, you'll then have to re-bleed your brakes or top up again because there's a bubble that's risen to the top of the shifter and you've got squidgy brakes, alright? So yeah, try and do that because that makes things so much easier. I'm going to see if I can just dangle that down there. Okay, right, that's cool. Now I'm going to sanitize my hands because I've got hydraulic fluid absolutely everywhere. I have left my syringe like this, okay? I don't recommend it, but this is for filming purposes only. I'm going to come up to my shifter. I'm now going to take out the plug for the reservoir and I'm going to put that somewhere over here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently squeeze the syringe and you will see air bubbles coming up through the system into the reservoir. I'm going to squeeze the syringe very gently, okay? And you should start to see some bubbles coming up through the system. Oh, it's very dirty as well. That's a great example. Just want to carry on squeezing through. You don't want to get any air bubbles in the system. So I'm just going to really quickly drop that, grab my Allen key and lock off this port. Perfect. Now we are safe. I can carefully take this off. And because this is all clean, I can then put it back into my tub or bottle of hydraulic fluid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo the stand in order for the bike to be able to move like this. Alright, this is important because you've got the caliper here, right? You want the bike to be facing upwards, right, as much as possible without the fluid in the reservoir overflowing, alright, or tipping out. You don't want that, especially my mum, who doesn't want hydraulic fluid stains on her patio. Anyway, moving on. So you've got the caliper. All the air bubbles are now going to be trying to fight against gravity, basically, to go up the hose, all right, and then hopefully come out at the end of the shifter, all right. So the way to do this very well is you start by flicking the hose by the caliper and then like tap it along the frame. Just, this is rough, all right. Give it a good old tap. Now when you get to the top bit, you then find the hose that comes down through into the frame. You flick it, all right. Now this can hurt your nails, all right. So yeah, just be gentle. Yeah, so flick it, and this will aggravate the bubbles into like trying to move them up through that fluid because the fluid is thicker than water, all right. So yeah, now what you're going to do is you're going to squeeze your shifter lever, all right, and hopefully get any extra bubbles out the system, alright? Now what I didn't know until quite recently, alright? There are bubbles this side of the shifter, alright? But you've got a little reservoir in the top of your shifter too. I didn't know this, but now you've kind of hopefully got all the bubbles out of this end of the thing, the system, right? You can then tilt your bike the other way, alright? And really quickly try and catch any bubbles that try and counterflow the other way. As you can see, the hydraulic fluid in the reservoir cup is really murky. Now that is a sign that there is muck and dirt in your system, and I personally would recommend doing another rebleed, okay? That is just until the reservoir does become a bit cleaner. I can't be bothered to do that right now, but yeah, it's something that I would suggest doing, but I would like to try and get the other side done as well before the sun completely goes down. So yeah, so that's what that looks like. So basically I'm now going to grab my plug for the reservoir, and I'm just going to insert it, make sure it's in there properly. Take this reservoir out. Okay, so once you've really carefully removed this, you're going to dispose of this in the correct way. Most people have like a second bottle of mineral oil, which is obviously empty, and then they put it in there and then take it to the correct place to get it like disposed properly. But yeah, I'm just going to go get rid of this. I'm going to grab my reservoir bolt and find the correct Allen key. There we go, there's the Allen key. Pop that in there. Now, be really, really careful when putting this back in, okay? It should not be difficult to put in at all. If it feels like there's any resistance, stop, take it out, check the thread, and try again, alright? Just don't take any risks at all. Don't tighten it up too tight. Literally just enough so you know that nothing's going to come out there, alright? Fold the hoods back, which I would recommend, because you don't really want there to be a crease in there, because that doesn't look very nice. And now we're going to move back to the rear caliper. Okay, so basically the final step now is to get like a really old towel or like a cloth or something that you're not going to really need again ever, unless you're doing this again. But something that doesn't get too much dust over your components. Next, with clean hands, you're going to want to assemble your brake pads. Now, I would clean these, but I don't have the time to do that right now. But I'm going to put the spring in the center, alright, then put the other pad right on top. You're going to then pinch them and slide them through into the caliper, and lining up the holes with the outer holes of the caliper too. You're going to get your bolt and you're going to slide it through the caliper and make sure it goes through all the components of the pads, if that makes sense, so that they are not going to come out. Slot the rear wheel back in. Hopefully once you've put the rear wheel back on, there will be no disc rub. Now there is a slight bit of disc rub, but if you want to get that sorted, you can undo the two bolts of the caliper, alright, and then squeeze your rear brake, which will then center the caliper, and then tighten the bolts back up, and hopefully you will have a wheel disc rotor that doesn't rub against your pads. It's a bit of trial and error. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, so it might just take 5 minutes or so to get that perfect. So for the moment of truth, did the hydraulic brake bleed work? Let's check. Perfect. So that works. The last bits that I will be doing is just taping on the cable, alright, to the handlebar, or the hose to the handlebar. That way it makes it so much easier to wrap the handlebar tape, okay? And then, yeah, obviously I need to rebleed the other side, but I'm just hoping that that Allen key has glued properly into that bolt so that I can get that bolt off, because that'll be quite upsetting if I can't. So yeah, when it comes to the front brake, it is exactly the same process. That caliper is slightly newer than this caliper, so the ports will be located in different places, but it's the exact same process, alright? So yeah, follow those same steps. You won't need as much hydraulic fluid because obviously it's only got that much distance to travel, whereas this rear brake has got all of this distance to travel. So yeah, the front brake is much easier in my opinion. Caliper's there, the shifter's there, so it's all like in one place, whereas you got the rear shifter and the rear caliper in completely opposite sides of the bike. So I hope you enjoyed that video. It was a little bit messy. I hope you couldn't tell too much. But if you want to see similar videos or like anything else to do with bikes, then let me know in the comments. I will do my best to put out some more content like this. Yeah, let me know what you want to see. And if I do know how to do it, I'll make a video on it. So yeah, so make sure you like, share and subscribe. Drop a comment, and I will see you in the next one.